This is a story from Africa, and it's called The Song of the Magical Bird. A long, long time ago, nestled in a fertile valley, was a little African village where people lived very happily together. The soil was good, crops grew well, they had chickens and goats and cattle, and life was good. One day when they were out in the fields, a huge bird flew overhead, and they saw its shadow pass over the village and watched as it flew and perched in the tallest tree in the forest, the giant yellow wood tree. And from that day, things began to change. The crops failed, animals disappeared or died, and each day this great bird swooped into the village and carried off a chicken or a goat. And the people began to get hungry, and the children cried, and people began to be angry and to fight and quarrel among themselves. And one day the headman called everybody together and said, "It is the fault of that bird. If we cut down the giant yellow wood tree, the bird will leave our village." And so he bade all the strong young men to spend the night sharpening their machetes and their axes until the blades gleamed. And the next morning, as the sun came up, the young men, taking their axes and machetes, sang and stamped their way into the forest and began to chop at the tree. As their axes bit deep into the trunk, the tree shuddered and the branches parted, and there at the top stood the magical bird, the most beautiful, shining, colourful bird they had ever seen. And it lifted its head and it opened its throat, and the wonderful song poured out. It sang of strength and honour, of strong men and beautiful women. It sung of happy hunts and proud children. And the young men listened to the song, and their hands grew weak, and they sank to their knees. And the whole day they heard the bird singing until the sun sank and the sky turned red. And then in a dream the young men walked back to the headman and told him they could not kill so beautiful a bird. Now the headman was angry, and he called together the old men of the village, and he told them to sharpen their machetes and axes, and told them to go and cut down the tree the next day. And again the old men shouldered their axes, and singing and stamping, they made their way into the forest and began to hack at the yellow wood tree. And the tree shuddered, the branches opened, and there stood the bird. And again its song poured forth, and it sang of past glories, great deeds and mighty hunts. It sang of honour and good things to come. And the old men stood and listened until the sun sank. And they too went back to the headman and said they could not kill such a beautiful bird. The headman then gathered all the children together and said, "Children, your eyes are not clouded, your ears are not stopped. Sharpen your little axes, and I will take you out to the tree in the morning." And so the headman and the little children went to the great tree, and the children began to chop, 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 chippity chop, chop, chop. And the tree quivered, and the branches parted, and there stood the bird in feathers of every colour of the rainbow. and it sang. But the children did not hear it. They could only hear the chanting rhythm of their own songs and the little chip, 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 chippity chop of their axes. But the headman heard, and he put down his axe. And the tree began to shake and groan and creak, and with a mighty whoosh, it fell to the ground, crushing the bird in its branches. The headman looked at the bird, and there it lay, crushed and drained of all colour. And that night there was a great feast for the children, and the headman said, "Children, you didn't listen. You saw clearly. You are our future. You are the eyes and the ears of our tribe."